to talk about something that's huge in the United States right now and proliferating out of the world. And it's this sense of inequality, right? Like we're living in some kind of landscape of inequality pervasive throughout, unfairness. And I wanted to give you guys some insights. A lot of times people think unfairness is caused by like systems, like by capitalism, right? Or by totalitarian governments. And that's what it's come from. And usually when you guys think about how things are distributed in life, you think like it's kind of even, right? You're like, most people are an average height. Most people are averagely fat, right? Most people have average intelligence, right? You think of these averages that most of the people live in this bucket here. And then of course there's a couple pieces on the end. But when we're talking about things like in creative enterprises like sports and music and business, it's not like that, right? There's this principle that our salespeople and our engagement managers walk clients through every day, right? And it's called the Pareto distribution. And what that generally stands for, he came out with this theory. He actually did it based on pea pods, right? And he figured out when he was growing pea pods that 80% of the peas were coming from 20% of the pods, right? Some of these pods were just generating way more peas. So they did this extrapolation throughout so many different things of this distribution. In short, what it says is 80% of the benefit of anything is going to come from 20% of the allocated resources, right? In business, generally, 20% of your customers generate 80% of your revenue. In customer service, 80% of your complaints come from 20% of your customers, right? And even like in a thing like HR, 80% of the people who are written up for disciplinary action, right? All kinds of problems, all these challenges, that's 20% of the staff, right? 20% of the staff consumes 80% of the HR efforts, right, to address. So it's interesting. It's not just about money, right? It's about in all these things, the world, it's almost like a natural law. Things aggregate, things move from one place to the other, and they tend to focus in these large buckets. So we think about, they say today, like the wealthiest 100 people have more wealth on the planet than the bottom 2 billion. Right? Think of that. A handful of people have more money than 2 billion people. I can't even conceptualize what it would like to talk to 2 billion people, right? It's insane. And people say, what do they say? It's the corruption of capitalism, right? White people are oppressive. They built it on the backs of slavery and exploitation, right? It's power and oppression. That's why these people are rich, right? Because they stole it. They took it. And so what happens? We have countries, governments like the Soviet Union and Mao's China and Nicaragua and Cuba and Venezuela. And these companies said, that capitalism crap, right? That colonialism from the Americans, right? And the British, that stuff is what caused all this. We're going to redefine the world. We're going to change everything and restructure so that everyone is equal and everyone is fair, right? That's what they said. We're going to bring equity to the masses. We're going to address this massive inequality. That's what we're going to do. But then what happened? The Soviet Union ended up with more inequality than ever before. China today has more billionaires today than anywhere else on the planet. And at the same time, they have the poorest people on the planet, right? And this is in the controlled government that's supposed to bring equality to everyone. So it looks like, right? And not only did they do it, right? When they did it, they're like, hey, not only are we going to try and fix it, we're going to kill 100 million people in the process. Right? So massive murder and death. And at the end of it all, what happens? The same financial inequality. What the fuck is going on? How does that make any sense? So, I mean, that's why we think it's more than just like a political philosophy. It's a natural law. The sun in our universe is 100 million times bigger than all the planets in our solar system. because gravity causes that Pareto distribution. Cities aggregate more people. Like, think of Manila. Manila's got what? 21 million people. Almost a quarter of your country is in a single city environment. I think it looks to a lot of people like these things are natural laws. It just happens. So the Pareto distribution, it's literally everywhere, right? And for a lot of times, it doesn't shock anybody. You get the Pareto distribution in basketball, right? LeBron James and like 150 guys are the best basketball players in the world and make the most money. It's a Pareto distribution. You guys love YouTubers. You love TikTok. A handful of them get all the views, right? There's what, 3 billion people who can make TikTok videos, but you guys end up watching all the same ones. It's a Pareto distribution. You watch the same actors in the same movies over and over and over again, but how many actors are there? It's a Pareto distribution. Music, right? Beethoven, Mozart, they are more played than all the other pieces of music that have been written by anyone else ever, and they play the same 4 guys. And I know you guys are like, who the fuck is Beethoven? So I'll help you. For you guys, think of it like BTS, right? Smooth like butter, like a criminal undercover, gonna pop like trouble, breaking into your heart like that. Ooh, right? How many bands are out there? How many of you are musicians? How many of you are singers? Everybody's listening to BTS, right? It's a Pareto distribution. So I want you guys to think about this inequality landscape. And the reason I bring it up today is because I know a lot of you are like, why does that person make more money than me? Right? I'm in the same job. That person got promoted. I got this. I got that. Right? It's like, is it fair? It's not just an issue of is it fair, right? These principles of Pareto distribution and inequality, they're old. They are old systems, right? It's not capitalism. It's not exploitation. If you go look at the pyramids in Egypt, right? They weren't capitalists in Egypt, but all their wealth aggregated to just a few people. That's what happened, right? When you look at Darwin and genetic expansion, it's like a few of the bulls are impregnating all the cows, right? The strongest genes produced. It's a Pareto distribution. It's so old, it's even in the Bible. Matthew 25:29. For unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. Right? To those who have everything, more will be given. And to those who have nothing, everything will be taken. It's in the Bible from 2,000 years ago. So I don't think we can blame capitalism. And I don't think we can blame, as much as we want to, the white people. And I don't think we can blame the men. I don't think we can blame the church, right? This distribution, this inequality is nature. It just happens, man. So that sucks, right? That sucks. What are we supposed to do about it? What are we supposed to do? How do we fix it, right? How do we fix it? Is it fixable? I don't know. People have been trying to fix it. They try to kill people to fix it, right? They try to make freedom to fix it. It doesn't seem to fix. I would suggest to you, do your best to understand the rules of the game that we're all playing in. I want you to think of it like chess, right? When you're playing chess, you have a knight, and it can move in an L like this, and pawns, they can only move one or one over. A queen can go anywhere. And in order to win at chess, you have to follow the rules of chess, right? You can't just like pick up the pieces and throw them at the guy across from you and win the chess game, because then you're not playing chess anymore, right? There's rules that you have to play by if you want to win within the confines of the rules. And I think what you've got to believe in is that the rules are just. And there's going to be some flaws, right? There's going to be some corruption, right? Even if you're playing chess or if you're playing golf with Gino, right? You know he's going to kick his ball a couple times. He's going to cheat. But in general, the rules are going to be there, right? You're going to count the strokes. So people will cheat within the rules, but the rules themselves have to be maintained or there is no game and there is no life. That's why it's like really important for me, and I think for all of us, to understand that you can't say the rules don't matter. You can't say they're just unfair. You can't think that your individual belief system is independent of everyone else's. We have to have some basic truths. There have to be some things that we think are in alignment. Murder is wrong. We have to think these things through and we have to have an agreement, because if we don't have that, then what do we have? Right? We got Thomas Hobbes' chaos, all men against all men. It's super popular, especially in the United States. I'm sure you guys know people like this. This is my experience. This is my truth. You don't understand, my individual truth is the truth. It's fucking ridiculous. There are maxims. There are universal truths. And that's why things like the Pareto distribution happen, because there are these natural laws on how things happen. And it's kind of like, hey man, you want to break the rules of chess? You're not playing chess. And then what? You're going to play this weird modified chess game by yourself? And life's kind of the same way. You're going to live this life by yourself without anyone else because you're going to live your truth. I don't think anybody wants that. There was this other fat guy, not just me, but Buddha. And he got to nirvana. Did you guys know this? Buddha got to nirvana. He was there, achieved everything, completely at peace. You know what the first thing he did was? Came back. He came back and said, nirvana alone didn't make sense. And then what did he do? He made his entire life focused on helping others to get there. We're in this together. All right. So here we are. We're in this horrible world of inequality, right? These Americans run around, they own everything. What am I supposed to do? Right? I live at the bottom. I'm short. I'm ugly. I'm dumb. I wasn't born in America. I was born in the third world. My dad's sick. My mom's works 17 jobs. I got 25 sisters and brothers. What am I supposed to do? Give up? Maybe. Here's a really interesting thing about capitalism that I don't think everyone realizes. That 100 people who control all the money, as they say, that's true. There is 100 people with that kind of money. But you know what's super interesting? Those people change. It's not the same people. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, 20 years ago, they were all poor. Like college student poor. Right? But now they're on top. So the key is this, right? The rich do have all the money, but the rich people change. And it's also a relative issue when you're thinking about it, right? In the United States today, we've got Black Lives Matter and the socialists are going nuts, right? And we're like, we need to redistribute the wealth and we need to take it. And at the same time, the poorest people in the United States, if you compare them to the rest of the world, they are also the 1%. The poorest person in the United States is richer than almost everyone in the planet. And these people are crying about inequality and how unfair it is. And they can only drive a Prius. It's ridiculous. Perspective is like super important. So it's the comparisons that cause these problems. And I think comparing yourself against other people is important, right? You want to have a goal, but you got to think carefully about, are you fairly comparing a situation? Like everyone's Do you want to compare yourself against a rock star and be like, well, why is he a rock star and he gets to do whatever he wants and his life is perfect? But you don't know the details of everyone's lives, right? Everyone would be like, hey, I want to have $60 million and I want to be a pop star, but would any of you want to change your life with Britney Spears right now? Right? Where you're a prisoner in your own life? So it's more than the money, right? And it's more than just understanding the circumstances. So my proposition to you is be very careful who you compare yourself to. And I think the safest person that you can really understand the diversity of their demands, problems, challenges they face is yourself. I think the healthiest thing you can do is compare yourself to yourself of yesterday, right? That person you know everything about them. You're not guessing, right? You know whether they got benefits or not. And if you can compare yourself against that person, now you've got a real measure, a tangible measure of how you can make change on an incremental basis, on a day-to-day basis. So, what do we do now? I think first, figure out what it is you want to do, right? What's important to you? Then you set that target, right? You set it way out there. You set it like it's on the mountaintop and looks impossible. But get that as your guide. But don't keep your eye on it the entire time you're walking the journey, right? You need to keep your focus right in front of you, the people immediately around you. And as you're moving forward, set your goals daily for a little incremental change. Make yourself a little bit better than you were yesterday. Do that. 1% better, 0.5% better. Add up all those percentages, and a year from now, you're a completely different person. Look at Karen. Karen's a great example. She said, hey, in 2 years, she's a completely different person than she was. And she did that by making small changes every single day. Do that, and you can be the next Karen Vitasa, right? Who came in as a recruiter and then became a department head and helped foster the growth of hundreds of people that she has touched, including myself. So I'll end with 2 thoughts. Have your heroes, have your BTS idols, right? Keep those as high-end targets for yourself. Let them be a guide, right? They're like a guide to your ideal. But when you talk about an ideal, right? Like Jesus was an ideal. I try not to be super religious, but a lot of it's relevant to us, especially in the Western culture. Jesus just isn't an ideal, right? If you look at the back of the Bible, there's this crazy book called Revelations, right? So you've got this guy, Jesus, he dies on the cross, he's helping everybody, he's feeding, he's staying with the poor. And then in the end book, this guy comes back with a forked tongue, wielding fire and death. Your ideal is also a judge. And recognize that. Let those high ideals be a focus, but you need to judge your behavior and what you're doing every single day so that you can move closer to it, knowing that you're going to fall short. But at least when you fall short, you want to fall forward. I'll end it with this last thought. Judge yourself. Absolutely do that. But judge yourself by who you were yesterday and not who someone else is today. Thanks, guys.